Wait, is that Bisola? FlexiPay, Nigeria's fastest growing? Oh my god, I can't believe this.
Bisola, a billionaire? I have to see this. FlexiPay records, business events, luxury homes. Wait, she founded it years before the loan? She was wealthy the entire time.
Bisola, we know everything.
These are your transfer records.
And messages begging for loans. Successful people take opportunities others fail to see.
How could you traitor?
Jumok Fashola thought she was helping a struggling colleague when she lent Bisola Oluwasen 50,000 in 2019. Bisola worked in the same accounting firm in Victoria Island, Lagos. She always looked poor, wore the same 3 outfits to work, complained about overdue rent, took public transport while others had cars. When she asked to borrow money for her sick mother's hospital bills, Jumok didn't hesitate. They were friends, colleagues, sisters in struggle. For 5 years, Bisola made excuses about repayment. Next month when I get paid, I'm still struggling. Please be patient, I haven't forgotten. Jumok, who wasn't wealthy herself, let it go. Please, of 50,000 was a lot, but friendship mattered more than money. Then in November 2024, Jumok was scrolling through LinkedIn when she saw a post that made her heart stop. A tech startup called FlexiPay had just received 500 million in Series B funding. The founder and CEO's photo was at the top of the announcement. It was Bisola, not struggling, poor Bisola. But Bisola in designer clothes, standing in a luxury office, identified as Bisola Oluwaseun, tech entrepreneur, Forbes 30 Under 30 Africa. Jumok investigated. Bisola had founded FlexiPay in 2018, a year before borrowing money. The company had been profitable since 2020. Bisola owned multiple properties, drove a Range Rover kept in a private garage. Her net worth was estimated at 0.2 billion. She'd been rich the entire time while crying poverty at work, borrowing money from colleagues, riding Danfo buses for show. It wasn't just Jumok. Bisola had borrowed from 17 other colleagues over 5 years, small amounts from each, never repaying. Total, 1.2 million. Pocket change for a billionaire, but not for the lower-level employees she'd conned. When Jumok confronted her, Bisola's response was chilling. That's how you build wealth. Take from people who are too stupid to check. Subscribe because this story exposes how some Nigerian entrepreneurs operate. A Lagos woman worked at accounting firm 2019-2024. Appeared poor, struggling, rode public transport. Borrowed money from 17 colleagues, small amounts each, never repaid. Everyone thought she was broke. Then one colleague found her LinkedIn. Tech startup CEO, below 2 billion net worth, Forbes list, owned properties, Range Rover, had been wealthy entire time, borrowed 1.2 million from poor colleagues while building empire. When confronted, that's how you build wealth, take from people too stupid to check. Police investigation, civil suit, fraud charges. This is about Nigerian hustle culture turned evil, fake struggle, financial predators, long con over years, colleagues who trusted destroyed. Hit that bell. This is Jumok's story. Jumok Fashola started working at Precision Accounting Services in Victoria Island in January 2019. She was 26 years old, a junior accountant making Winner 180,000 monthly. Not poor but not comfortable in expensive Lagos. She lived in a shared apartment in Yaba with 2 roommates and sent money home to her parents in Ibadan every month. The firm had about 50 employees, mostly accountants, some admin staff, a few executives. Bisola Oluwaseun started the same month as Jumok. They went through orientation together. Both were junior accountants with the same salary. They bonded quickly over shared experiences of navigating Lagos as young professional women. Bisola seemed to struggle more than Jumok. She always wore the same rotation of 3 work outfits. She'd skip lunch often, claiming she'd eaten at home to save money. She rode Danfo buses and Okada motorcycles while others took Uber. She talked constantly about financial stress, overdue rent, sick mother needing care, younger siblings she was supporting through school. Jumok felt sympathetic. At least Jumok had her shared apartment secured and manageable expenses. Bisola seemed to be drowning. They became friends, ate lunch together when Bisola could afford it, talked about their dreams. Both wanted to start businesses eventually, escape the corporate grind, build something of their own. One day I'll have my own company, Bisola would say. I'm just figuring out what. Something in tech maybe. Fintech is hot now. You should go for it, Jumok encouraged. You're smart. You could do it. Need capital first. That's always the problem. No capital, no business. Throughout 2019, Bisola borrowed small amounts from Jumok, 5,000 here for transport, 3,000 there for phone credit, always repaying within a week. She was reliable with small amounts, which built trust. Then in November 2019, Bisola came to Jumok crying. My mother is in the hospital. She had a stroke. The bills are 150,000, but I only have 100,000 saved. I need 50,000 more. Please, Jumok. I'll pay you back as soon as I get my December salary. Jumok had been saving to buy a laptop for a side freelance project. She had exactly 50,000 saved. But Bisola's mother was dying. How could she refuse? Of course. Take it. Pay me back whenever you can. Bisola transferred the money immediately and hugged Jumok crying. You saved my mother's life. I'll never forget this. December came. Bisola's mother supposedly recovered. But when Jumok gently asked about repayment, Bisola looked devastated. I'm so sorry. The hospital bills ended up being more than expected. I had to borrow from loan sharks. Now I'm paying them back with interest. I'm drowning. Can you give me another month? Jumok agreed. She needed the laptop, but her friend needed help more. The pattern continued for 5 years. Bisola would promise to repay next month, but next month there was always a new crisis. An uncle's funeral, a brother's school fees, rent arrears, medical bills. The stories were endless and convincing because Bisola's overall persona supported them. She looked poor, acted poor. Everyone at the firm believed she was struggling. Meanwhile, Bisola borrowed from other colleagues too. Never large amounts from any one person. Was 20,000 here, 30,000 there. Was 15,000 from another. Always with tragic stories. Always promising quick repayment. Always defaulting. By 2024, Bisola had borrowed from 17 different colleagues. Most were junior staff like herself. People who couldn't easily afford to lose the money but were too kind to refuse helping a struggling friend. Total amount borrowed. My 1.2 million over 5 years. The firm's culture made it easy. Lagos professionals often help each other. Small loans between colleagues are normal. The expectation is you pay back when you can. Most people do. Bisola just didn't. And people felt too awkward to push hard because she seemed so desperately poor. Jumok watched Bisola over the years and felt increasingly concerned. Bisola never seemed to get ahead. 5 years in the same job at the same salary, always struggling. Jumok herself had gotten promotions, now making 280,000 monthly. But Bisola was stuck at entry level. Maybe you should look for a new job, Jumok suggested in 2023. Somewhere that pays better. I'm trying. It's hard. Nobody's hiring. I'm just grateful to have this job at all. But Bisola never seemed to actually apply anywhere, never updated her resume, never networked. Just showed up at work daily in her same 3 outfits, did mediocre work, and continued her persona of barely surviving. What Jumok didn't know was that Bisola wasn't working hard at the accounting firm because she didn't need to. She was just maintaining a cover. The accounting job was her alibi, her proof she was a regular struggling employee. It gave her access to other struggling employees she could exploit. Her real work happened elsewhere, in an office in Ikoyi, at a luxury apartment in Lekki, in meetings with investors, building an empire while pretending to be broke. On November 8, 2024, Jumok was at home scrolling LinkedIn during her lunch break. She followed several tech and business pages because she was interested in entrepreneurship. One of these pages shared news about a Nigerian fintech startup called FlexiPay receiving massive funding. The headline read, FlexiPay secures 500 million Series B funding, plans Pan-African expansion. Jumok clicked out of mild interest. Fintech success stories were inspiring. The article included photos of the founding team. And there, front and center, was a professional photo of Bisola Oluwaseun. Jumok stared. It looked exactly like Bisola from work. But this Bisola wore an expensive suit, had professionally styled hair, stood in a modern glass office. The caption read, Bisola Oluwaseun, founder and CEO of FlexiPay, Forbes 30 Under 30 Africa 2023. Jumoke's first thought was it must be a different person with the same name. But she clicked on the profile. The bio listed education from University of Lagos, same as her Bisola, same age, same hometown. This wasn't a coincidence. She searched FlexiPay online. The company website showed Bisola's full profile. Founder and CEO since 2018, the company provided digital payment solutions for small businesses. It had been operational since 2018, profitable since 2020, and now had over 200 employees. 2018. A year before Bisola started at the accounting firm. A year before borrowing $50,000 for her mother's hospital bills. Jumoke searched deeper. Forbes Africa article from 2023 profiling Bisola as one of their 30 under 30. Net worth estimated at Muja 2 billion. Multiple properties. Investments in other startups. A lifestyle photo showed her stepping out of a Range Rover. Jumoke felt sick. This couldn't be real. The Bisola at work rode Danfo buses, wore the same 3 cheap outfits, complained about not affording lunch. How could that same person be a billionaire CEO? She called another colleague, Damilola, who Bisola had also borrowed from. Check something for me. Search FlexiPay and tell me if you recognize anyone. Damilola called back 5 minutes later, voice shaking. That's Bisola. That's our Bisola. What the hell? Jumoke created a WhatsApp group with the colleagues she knew Bisola had borrowed from. 17 people total. They compared notes. Patterns emerged. Bisola had borrowed from lower-level employees only. Never management. Never anyone who might have the resource to investigate her. She'd kept amounts small enough that people wouldn't pursue legal action, but large enough that they hurt. Everyone has similar stories. Medical emergencies, family crises, always tragic. Always convincing, always unpaid. One colleague, Segun, contributed crucial information. I got suspicious last year and followed her after work one day. She didn't take a Danfo like she claimed. She walked 2 blocks, got into a Range Rover and drove off. I thought maybe it was a boyfriend's car, but now, another BC added, I saw her at a fancy restaurant in V once. She was dressed expensively with other business people. When she saw me, she literally ducked behind a menu and left quickly. I thought I'd been mistaken, but she avoided me at work for weeks after. The group realized Bisola had been running a perfect con, maintaining her poor colleague persona at work while living a billionaire lifestyle everywhere else. The accounting job was just a stage. They were her marks. We should confront her, someone suggested. No, Jumoke said. We should gather every piece of evidence first. Loan records, messages, promises. Then we go to HR and police together. The group decided to confront Bisola publicly at work. They wanted her to know they all knew that she couldn't gaslight or manipulate them individually anymore. On November 15th, during lunch hour, all 17 colleagues gathered in the break room. They'd invited Bisola for what they told her was a birthday celebration for someone. When Bisola arrived, she found them waiting with printed evidence, LinkedIn profiles, Forbes articles, FlexiPay corporate filings showing her as founder and CEO since 2018. Explain this, Jumoke said, putting the documents on the table. Bisola's face went through several expressions: shock, fear. Then something cold and calculating settled in. Okay, you found out. Congratulations. That's it, Damilola said. That's all you have to say? You've been lying to us for 5 years. I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you everything. There's a difference. You borrowed money while being a billionaire. Bisola shrugged. I borrowed small amounts that meant nothing to me, but clearly mattered to you. That's your problem, not mine. You pretended to be poor. I played a role. It's called strategy. While you all wasted energy feeling sorry for me, I was building wealth. That's the difference between successful people and the rest of you. The room went silent with shock at her audacity. Jumoke found her voice. So you conned us, deliberately. For years. Con is a harsh word. I took opportunities you freely gave. You offered money. I accepted. You failed to verify my story. That's on you. We trusted you, and that's why you'll always be poor. Trust without verification is stupidity. I learned that early. Successful people understand. Wealth flows from the foolish to the clever. You all were foolish. I was clever. Don't be mad at me for playing the game better. The group went straight to HR with their evidence. They showed how Bisola had misrepresented her financial situation to borrow money from colleagues, creating a hostile work environment built on deception. HR investigated and found even more. Bisola had falsified parts of her employment application, listed false references, provided a fake previous employment history. She'd wanted to appear as a struggling junior accountant to access her target demographic for exploitation. Precision Accounting Services fired her immediately for fraudulent application and creating a hostile work environment. But Bisola just laughed when security escorted her out. You think this hurts me? I don't need this job. I never did. It was just useful for accessing marks. Now I'll find marks elsewhere. The group filed a police report for fraud, 17 victims. Waste of 1.2 million stolen through false pretenses. The police investigated. They discovered Bizola's operation was more extensive than just the accounting firm. Over the past 6 years, she'd infiltrated various workplaces, posing as struggling employees. She'd borrowed from an estimated 65 people across 5 different companies. Total, approximately 3.5 million. Small change for a billionaire, but devastating for her victims. Her method was simple but effective. Join a workplace, establish a poor persona, build trust. Borrow small amounts from multiple people. Never repay. Move to next workplace. The amounts were calculated to be large enough to hurt, but small enough that people rarely pursued legal action. Why did you do this? A detective asked her. You have money 2 billion. Why steal 3.5 million from people who can't afford to lose it? Bisola's response was chilling. Because I can. Because watching people scramble to help me while I don't need it proves I'm smarter than them. It's not about the money. It's about the power. About knowing I played them and they never suspected until it was too late. Bisola was charged with fraud, obtaining money under false pretenses, and criminal deception. The trial in Lagos High Court was highly publicized. A Forbes-listed billionaire who'd conned poor colleagues became national news. The prosecution presented victims who testified about financial hardship caused by Bisola's theft. One colleague had had to delay medical treatment because the money Bisola borrowed was needed for hospital bills. Another had been evicted because rent money went to Bisola instead. Meanwhile, evidence showed Bisola's wealth. Mazu 2 billion net worth. Multiple properties in Ikoyi, Lekki, and Abuja. Investments worth hundreds of millions. A Range Rover, a Mercedes, and a Porsche. Vacation homes in Dubai and London. The contrast was stark. Victims struggling to survive. Perpetrator living in luxury. Bisola's defense argued she'd borrowed money legitimately and simply hadn't repaid yet. That wasn't fraud, just debt. Repayment could still happen. But the prosecution proved she deliberately created false personas, lied about circumstances, never intended to repay, used sophisticated manipulation techniques. This was systematic fraud, not simple debt. The judge agreed. Bisola was convicted on 17 counts of fraud. She received a 5-year prison sentence and was ordered to repay all victims with 20% interest. Additionally, civil court ordered her to pay Masha 50 million in damages to be split among victims for emotional distress and financial harm. During sentencing, the judge said, "You had wealth beyond most people's dreams, yet you chose to steal from those struggling to survive, not from need but from a perverse desire to prove your superiority. You are a predator who weaponized trust. 5 years is insufficient for the pain you caused, but it's what the law allows." The trial destroyed Bisola's reputation. FlexiPay's board removed her as CEO. Investors distanced themselves. The Forbes list removed her. The tech community that had celebrated her success now saw her as a fraud, not just in personal conduct, but in her origin story. Investigation revealed her bootstrap startup narrative was false. She'd come from a wealthy family, had seed funding from her parents. The story of building from nothing while struggling was manufactured to appeal to investors and media. Her business strategy had also involved exploitation. FlexiPay had systematically underpaid lower-level employees while executives got massive bonuses. She justified this as market rates, but investigation showed it was deliberate. She liked keeping people beneath her struggling. Partners terminated contracts. Clients left. FlexiPay's valuation collapsed. The company was eventually sold for a fraction of its previous worth. Bizola's 62 billion net worth decreased to around close to 400 million after legal fees, settlements, and business losses. But the biggest loss was reputation. She became a cautionary tale. The billionaire con artist. Her name became synonymous with fake hustle culture, with exploitation disguised as entrepreneurship. For Jumok and the other victims, recovery was complicated. They got their money back with interest from the court settlement, but the emotional damage wasn't so easily repaired. "I feel stupid," Jumok admitted in therapy. "I trusted her completely. Never questioned her stories. How did I not see it?" The therapist explained. "Skilled con artists are experts at exploiting empathy. Your kindness wasn't stupidity. Her manipulation was just sophisticated." But the experience changed how Jumok related to colleagues. She became more guarded, questioned people's motives, lost some of the openness that had made her a good friend. Several victims struggled similarly. One developed anxiety about lending anything to anyone. Another became cynically suspicious of everyone. The trauma of betrayal by someone they'd considered family rippled through their lives. A support group formed. 17 victims processing shared trauma. They'd been targeted because they were kind, empathetic, and trusting. Bisola had weaponized their best qualities. Slowly, they rebuilt. Reminded each other that Bisola was the problem, not their kindness. That most people aren't predators. That trust is still worth the risk, even though sometimes it's betrayed. Jumok used her share of the settlement to finally buy her laptop and start the freelance business she delayed. In a way, Bizola's stolen 50,000 became the capital for Jumok's business after all, just 5 years late and through court enforcement. 2 years after the trial in 2027, Jumok reflected during an interview for a documentary about workplace fraud. What Bisola did was take advantage of a culture where helping colleagues is normal. In Nigeria, we support each other. If someone is struggling, you help if you can. She weaponized that culture. The hardest part wasn't losing a 50,000. It was realizing someone I considered a friend saw me as a mark, that our entire friendship was a con, that she laughed at my kindness behind my back. Bizola's biggest mistake was thinking empathy is weakness. She saw our willingness to help as stupidity. But empathy builds community. Her cleverness left her isolated. 5 years in prison, wealth diminished, reputation destroyed. Was that really smarter than having genuine friends? I learned to verify but not to stop trusting entirely. The goal isn't to become cynical like Bisola. It's to be kind with wisdom. Trust carefully, help thoughtfully, but never stop being human. Bisola told us successful people take from the foolish. But real success isn't built on exploitation. It's built on value creation, on mutual benefit, on community. She got rich, but she was always poor in the ways that matter. Today, I run my freelance business. I help young professionals learn accounting. And yes, I still lend to colleagues when they need it. But I verify stories. I set boundaries. I protect myself while remaining kind. Because the alternative, becoming like Bisola, seeing everyone as either predator or prey, that's not success. That's just a different kind of poverty. This is Jumok's story. She lent colleague and 50,000 for mother's hospital bills, 2019. Colleague seemed poor, struggled 5 years. Borrowed from 17 colleagues, you 1.2 million total, never repaid. Then found on LinkedIn. Billionaire tech CEO, Forbes list, with a 2 billion net worth since 2018. Had been rich entire time. Fake poor persona to con struggling colleagues. Police investigation found 65 victims, 5 companies, buys a 3.5 million stolen. Convicted fraud, 5 years prison, buys a 50 million damages. Said, that's how you build wealth, take from people too stupid to check. This is about Nigerian fake hustle culture. Financial predators, long con exploitation, weaponized trust. Colleagues discovering friend was con artist. Subscribe. Comment if you've been conned by someone you trusted. Share if you believe kindness isn't weakness.
The pain is part of my story, but it's not the ending.
Jumoke, we're here!
Together we are stronger.